Fake news. I think it was Donald Trump who first used the word, or at least popularized the word. He used it to describe the mainstream media that seemed to always twist his words. But the establishment, of course, uses fake news to describe really anything contrary to their official narrative. Basically, anyone who disagrees, you're fake news. What it does is it means you don't have to have a debate because the other side is unjustified, immoral, false, has no value, has no moral value. You don't have to engage with it because it's fake. If it was real, if it was a difference of opinion only, then you would perhaps have to answer questions. By calling something fake, you're saying it's illegitimate to its root. And of course, a lot of the fake news accusation is followed up closely by foreign interference. That's a fake news story funded by Russia or whoever they say it is. So not only do you not have to answer to the fake news, but whoever has a different opinion is now, their loyalty is suspect. Fact checkers, that whole fake industry is built on the government definition of fake news, which is if someone disagrees with the official narrative, let's fact check them and denounce them, not debate them or argue with them or concede they may have a point. If you look at the fact checkers at places like YouTube, they're built in. If you criticize the official narrative, you will have your content taken down and be demonetized. That's what happened to Rebel News. Following hard on the fake news accusation and the fact checkers is the online harms criminalization of news that's deemed fake. So first they say that's fake news. Then they fact check it and try and denormalize it. But if that doesn't work, then they bring in the online and harms criminalization. We've seen that very recently in Ireland. We see that in Canada right now in the form of our Bill C-63, that not only will you be fined, but you could even be jailed. In Canada, they're creating a standalone punishable by life imprisonment crime for promoting hatred. You can see this in action, how powerful it is. In the last election, the 2020 federal presidential election in the United States, there was a stunning revelation rooted in Hunter Biden's laptop, Hunter Biden being the son of Joe Biden. It was a laptop full of crazy revelations about Hunter Biden's use of prostitutes and drugs and money, and credible allegations that Joe Biden himself is compromised not only by Hunter Biden, but is on the take from foreign sources. That Hunter Biden laptop story was considered so damaging that various intelligence agencies declared it was fake and a hoax. And so even though the New York Post published the story, New York Post being one of the oldest newspapers in America with a very large readership, all the big tech companies at once banned the story and censored it because, of course, it was fake. What could you do? No one debunked the story. They simply said it is fake and paid by Russia. You see that even today. You don't have to look back 4 years ago. I mentioned that Joe Rogan, I was talking to Joel Pollack about this the other day, Joe Rogan hosted Donald Trump for a 3-hour conversation. And it was so powerful, tens of millions of people have seen it since then. And it really humanized and normalized Donald Trump, and it was funny. And for those who said, oh, he's too old, he was sharp as a tack for 3 hours. But you can't find it. You can't find it on Google. As you can see, it's had 40 million views nonetheless, but all the censorship has probably knocked that figure down from it would probably be over 100 million if it weren't shadow banned. So I want to talk a little bit about fake news because there's 3 stories that I think if you look at them individually are interesting, but if you read them together, it shows how this fake news engine is taking off. Here's a story from the Globe and Mail yesterday. And I thought this was interesting. You've probably heard of this before. Ottawa must combat residential school denialism by amending criminal code, special interlocutor says. Now, you know the story. The allegation that there are mass graves at some of these residential schools where Aboriginal kids attended really from more than a century ago till about 50 years ago. Mass graves implies that there was some massacre, mass death, that people were buried in like a pit. But in fact, that's not what the facts were at all. Someone used ground penetrating radar to go over a lawn outside one residential school and found some anomalies in the soil below. But it was never dug up, simply anomalies. There was no images of a mass grave, no images at all other than anomalies in the soil. It could have been anything. In fact, there used to be a septic field there. But the local Indian band knew they had a winner when they saw this. They, by the way, banned any investigation, banned police from investigating, even banned people from flying drones over it. Our Drea Humphrey was one of the few reporters to actually ask questions at the time. Take a look at this. In fact, she confronted the chief.
Sorry, we just had a question.
Yeah, we're doing an update, and I did reach out to your media a few times, but I haven't heard back.
Oh, okay.
But we were just wondering, because we came to get some B-roll of the crosses that were lined out there.
Okay, yeah, they became very, very weathered, and like very weathered.
Oh.
So we had some of our individuals go and take care of them.
Okay.
Yes.
Are they going to come back up, or?
I don't know.
I guess in Kamloops it breaks down over time, the little wooden crosses,
yeah,
right?
and if you see just how busy that highway is,
Yeah, it's in rough shape.
it is very rough shape. It was very sad shape, and a lot of it was.
Do you know where the museum's still closed? Because I wanted to kind of look at some of the archives and get some of the history and everything.
So, are you recording?
Yeah.
Okay, there's no ask for.
Okay, just put it down. What's the best way to reach you? Because I've tried for over a year, to be honest, to try to connect for an interview or something. So
Okay, well, honestly, I've had done like a million interviews.
I bet. I think you were just doing like.
And no, it was just a
Oh,
yes.
okay.
But no, I've done a million interviews.
Yeah, so I think that we should be able to ask questions about this mass graves hoax. I think it is a hoax. It hasn't been proven. And the language used around it includes genocide, mass grave. That's completely false, completely beyond what the facts suggest. And imagine trying to criminalize it. Let me read from the story. The federal government needs to address residential school denialism by amending the criminal code to make it an offense to willfully promote hatred against Indigenous peoples by playing down or justifying the harms the institutions caused. A special interlocutor's final report says. Kimberly Murray, the independent special interlocutor for missing children and unmarked graves and burial sites associated with Indian residential schools, that's a very big business card to have that title, released her findings Tuesday at a national gathering held in Gatineau. She was appointed to her role for a 2-year term in June 2022 by then Federal Justice Minister David Lametti. This past June, her term was extended by 6 months. So, yeah, right there you have it. Her mission depends on whipping up grievances. That word denialism means that asking questions, being a skeptic, is now considered a crime. We're not allowed to be skeptical of her. She's allowed to be skeptical of us. She's not called a denier if she denies our point of view. We're called a denier, almost like a Holocaust denier, if we deny her point of view. But look at that wording, even if you play it down. I happen to know 2 people, both of them are senior citizens, who attended Indian residential schools, and both of them thought it was a very positive experience. One of them, who's a very senior lawyer now, says there is no way he ever would have been put on that path of education and economic success and, frankly, social prestige of being a senior respected lawyer had he not been to this residential school where they taught him, to be candid, Western modern ways. I'm sure there were other people who had negative experiences, but are my 2 Indian friends who are alumni of these residential schools, are they guilty of denialism? Because they deny it. They deny that they were harmed by it. But you and I are who's really being targeted. You're not allowed to be a skeptic or even ask questions or play it down. Let me keep reading. In response to those who say that outlawing residential school denialism amounts to restrictions on free speech, Ms. Gazan said there is a difference, quote, between hate speech and free speech. Residential school denialism is hate speech, full stop, just as Holocaust denial is hate speech, full stop. Conservative Crown Indigenous Relations critic Jamie Schmalley said in a statement that his party is reviewing the report by Ms. Murray and will carefully examine the recommendations. By the way, denying the Holocaust is not actually a crime. At least I don't think it is. I've never seen it prosecuted. And I don't think it should be a crime. I think if someone is skeptical or has questions about the Holocaust, the right answer is to answer the questions. By attacking someone who asks questions, you're only going to suggest to them that the answer is not easily given. But even the Conservative Party is afraid, isn't it? You saw the answer. Well, we're going to study these. So you're going to study. You can't say, even in advance, that you're against the criminalization of a political point of view. Huh. So that's case study number one. That's story number one. The Canadian government has a grievance monger paid for by you who is now suggesting it should be a crime to even downplay or be a skeptic of unproven claims such as that mass grave. I say again, I'm sure there were episodes and incidents, some of which were atrocious, just as there are in schools to this day in white or multicultural neighborhoods. Having certain atrocious acts committed at boarding schools, unfortunately, that's not the first and that's not the last time that would happen. But imagine criminalizing asking questions about it.